Welcome today to BNI Advantage number 9. And we got a few guests, Jim McCarthy and Clay Morgan. Could you guys introduce yourselves?
Yes.
Such a good answer. Go on, Mr. McCarthy.
I'm Jim McCarthy. I own a company called it'syourshow.co, and we do podcast production and consulting, and we build studios, and a lot of my background has been in production for the past 30 years. I'm in the Williamson County chapter here in Middle Tennessee.
Excellent. And I'm Clay Morgan. I'm the executive director for BNI across Tennessee, Kentucky, and Southern Indiana. Been a part of BNI since 2004, which that math is starting to get harder to do by the year. I can't believe it. It feels like it was just yesterday, but 22 years now.
22 years, Clay. It's 22 years.
At the chapter meeting, that's your opportunity to create visibility, right? To be able to create awareness for folks, just to have that top of mind recency, thinking about you, thinking about your company. The one-to-ones, that's where you create connection. Last time I checked, it's not talking about yourself, right? It's being interested in the other person. What's interesting or what's going on right now with your family, with your company that really will help that person get to know you better and how to help you. I do think you need to talk about yourself in a one-to-one. Look to get that information from the other person first. It's almost kind of like the first person who asks the good question about the other one wins. Because in BNI, we know givers gain. It's going to be easier for you to find that connection, that referral, that intro into, maybe a different networking event that you're going to when you really start to take that interest in the other person.
I like that. The first person to ask about the other wins.
So the key point, not to sell yourself. It's to understand the other person well enough to find them referrals. One of the things I always tell people in one-to-ones is I'm the interviewer. It's a raw curiosity to just get as much good information out of your guest. And if you treat them that way, especially putting yourself in an interviewer position, think about it that way. Hey, I'm the interviewer. Let me find out a lot more about the who, what, where, when, why, and how of the person I'm sitting across. A lot of journalistic approaches can actually help you in that process, especially when it comes to hobbies and interests and other things that are outside of business. You could really make a deeper connection. If you're a backgammon player and, someone that you're sitting across from happens to have the same interest, great, off to the races. That's a huge part of that. And number 2, that kind of leads us to the gains worksheet. If I were sitting in their chair, what would I want someone to understand about me and my business? The gains worksheet helps members to get better referrals by using that worksheet.
That worksheet is a template to help you stay on track. Use that worksheet. When it's over, ask yourself, did I learn more about them or did they learn more about me? A good scorecard, because if they didn't fill it all the way out, did you ask enough questions to get them to fill it all the way out? It's a perfect outline because it goes into about them and then goes into about their business.
Yeah, I really like that, Ryan. The gains worksheet, for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with the acronym, when we say gains, we're talking about your goals, your accomplishments, your interests, your network, and your skills. And you kind of think about that in part on the professional front. Certainly we're all here as business leaders, but you think about that on the personal front as well. We've all got goals, personal and work. Hopefully those two things align, right? But there's going to be certain goals, like maybe you have a goal about a fun family vacation that you want to take this year, which is very different than the goal that you have around maybe hiring a certain amount of folks to join your organization, or a sales goal, or whatever the case may be. One leads to the other, but again, the connection you're creating with your colleagues in BNI, you want them to know those goals on both levels, right? The personal and the professional. I think as you make your way through those different areas of the gains profile, use interest, for example. Earlier Jim mentioned about backgammon. Jim, I didn't know you were a backgammon player. Right? Whether it's something less common like backgammon, or it's something like, what school you're a college football fan of, and anywhere in between. When you get that little nugget about someone's interest, all of a sudden now you've got that common thread to make an introduction. Be like, oh, that's so cool. You know what? Not a lot of people play backgammon, but actually I've got a fantastic guy. Do you know Jim McCarthy? No, you don't? Well, you're going to. right? I'm going to introduce you two guys. You're going to play a game. This is going to be great. Just kind of having that commonality that can come out of something as simple as getting to know about folks' goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. It can be that bridge. So it's not a cold introduction, right? It becomes warm and personal very naturally.
And just for the record, if anybody reaches out and wants to talk to me about backgammon, I just use that as a complete example of the first thing that popped into my head. Drumming would be something that I could talk about all day long. I play the drums and have since I was 12 years old. So the best statement, essentially, Gains Worksheet's not a paperwork. It's a roadmap showing you where the referrals are hiding. Moving into question 3, guys, what percentage of a one-to-one should be spent talking versus listening?
I think when you shoot for like a 70-30 ratio, not that's what it's supposed to be because it's supposed to be 50-50. But when you go in with the mindset, I am going to hear them, ask them questions, and give them 70% of the time listening to them, then you're probably going to fall closer to the 50-50.
We're all wired slightly differently. Some folks listening to this podcast, you're more extroverted. And I think a lot of times within BNI and within the sales world, being out there, a lot of the kind of the stereotypical idea of somebody who's, a great business leader or someone who's a great connector, a great networker, they know everybody, right? They're comfortable in any room. They've got the gift of gab. If you are very comfortable one-on-one, in fact, you love talking about your business and what's going on in your life. If you know you are that person, be really intentional about, in your head, think about being even 80% listening. There's nothing wrong with that, but make sure that it doesn't come at the expense of the other person. And I think similarly, if you tend to be more introverted or a little bit more reserved in those one-on-one environments, really challenge yourself, still strive for that 70-30, but know more often than not, you feel like you get walked over in conversations and where you do end up kind of walking away being like, well, that most of these people are talking about more about themselves than I didn't get a chance to say anything. Challenge yourself just to lean in a bit more and make it a little bit more about you. You will naturally still listen to that other person as well. On either side, just kind of know yourself and challenge to show up how you need to so that that's an effective meeting.
In our chapter, we begun identifying that it's called a one-to-one, not a one-on-one. It elicits a lot of laughter because the imagery associated with a one-on-one is entirely different than a one-to-one. So moving forward, refer to it as a one-to-one. I talk about there's an element, and this is interesting for me, putting a timer on yourself and that being an effective strategy. Is it, if you show up to a one-to-one with a timer, is it weird or how does that work?
I love this one because if you're the one at a one-to-one that says, hey, let me just put a timer on myself. That way I don't carry on too long because I can get lost and talk about myself and my business all day long. I think it's really interesting because it's mine. And so I want to make sure I keep myself controlled. By saying that, the other person was like, oh, hey, that's a good idea. I'll do the same. And if they don't, it's no big deal. The point is when you instigate it, there's a real thought there that you're like, wow, this person really is concerned with how much time we're spending and is really courteous of my time.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm a big fan of using the timer for one-to-one meetings. It can be formally with a timer, or it can just be agreeing to how much time we're going to spend on different things. You can use timers really effectively or really ineffectively. If all you did, I mean, this is kind of to the extreme being comical, but it's the truth. I mean, if you don't think about the bigger picture, if you just sat down and said, all right, hey, when we're getting ready to start this one-to-one meeting, Ryan, I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm going to take 30 minutes talking about me and 30 minutes talking about you. And boom, turn the timer on. Yeah, that's weird, right? That's a little bit uncomfortable. I think just really kind of, yes, it's about the timer, but it's more respecting both of your time as professionals and saying, how can we use this effectively so that this is a win-win? And the timer is just a vehicle to make that happen.
So basically, when you're telling someone you're putting yourself on a timer, you're showing that their time matters. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day. Moving on to question 5, why are notes so important during a one-to-one?
My father used to say all the time, a short pencil is better than a long memory. And I always was like, yeah, whatever. But that analogy is so true. It's like when you spend the time to write down something and don't trust remembering it, you've got, I mean, first of all, when you write it down, that's a way to obviously move it from mental to physical. It's just, kinesthetic learning is, I wrote it. I'm seeing it also. So it's visual. I'm actually feeling it as I'm writing it down. So there's science behind what you're doing for your memory when you do that. Now you have the notes, you can use those at a later time to help remind you. And really, if you just look at your notes probably one more time before you actually use their gains report and you wrote notes all over it, then when you see them like, "Hey, how's your dog Ralphie doing?" "Whoa, you know my dog Ralphie?" "Well, I didn't until I, looked at my notes."
Train him to play backgammon yet? That's the next question.
Ralphie, the backgammon playing dog. You would never forget that. I mean, yeah, write it down, but like, I think that's going to stick in your memory for
Yeah,
sure.
a little
No,
bit.
I've never had a dog named Ralphie who plays backgammon, so, yeah.
These are all purely fictional characters and scenarios we're coming up. So, Clay, how, note taking, how does that apply to when you have a one to one with
To
somebody?
me, one of the most important parts about taking notes during a one-to-one is it gives you that opportunity where you've got the short list. We talked about making sure that your time is effective at one-to-ones. And I think part of that is being able to, when you leave the meeting, be really clear about what are you going to do with that information to help the other person. What are your action items? What are you following up on? And to me, your notes, they're kind of the pathway to your action items. It's kind of both exactly what Ryan said. It's a great way of um, absorbing that information, being able to refer back to it, but it's that roadmap to the all important action step. What am I going to do to help this other person?
I always revert to my phone in the notes app or maybe some like a Todoist kind of thing. And typically when I do that, I always make sure that, hey, I'm not picking up my phone because I'm getting back to somebody in a text or an email. I'm literally pulling up my app. I'm showing it to you here. This is just how I take notes. Is that fair to do?
I think absolutely. Again,
Absolutely.
I mean, the example that you just gave, Jim, accomplished the goal, which was being able to go back and look at, what did you learn about that other person? What can you do to help them? The medium, it's a matter of what will work for you.
People are impressed when you remember their business. How many times do you guys, just on a side note, you go out somewhere to a restaurant or you order lunch from a counter and you see the name tag? Do you use the name when you see a name, or do you ask for the name of your server and use their name?
That is something I love to do, or, asking their name, and you see them light up.
Music to their
It is
ears.
so different. And then when you go back in that restaurant, maybe next week, maybe a month later, and you use their name, you will get better service. And all you did was made them feel special by knowing their name. That's huge, Jim. I mean, it
And they
really
get
is.
triggered. Speaking of getting triggered, how do you uncover someone's referral trigger words?
This is probably one of the biggest parts of a one-to-one after obviously getting to know them and stuff, but this is where you really get your return on your business, on the ROI side, is discussing their trigger words to get to your trigger words and have understanding. By asking them, it's like, "You may wanna go this route. Here's what I think you do when someone needs your service." Is it because for ICU security, for surveillance, a classic trigger is, well, I had some theft and the freaking cameras weren't recording when it happened. Or I just fired someone and I hope the next person's better. Those are both really good trigger words for us because that's exactly what we do. We fix that.
And Clay, I would imagine trigger words are still applicable to you.
The thing with trigger words is it's like it is the ultimate hack for being able to get more referrals. I think within BNI, the real power of trigger words is how you share those with your network, right? Because they don't work in your company, and especially if they don't work in your industry. your ability to make it easy for the other folks that are a part of your BNI chapter to just identify right off the bat, as soon as they hear a phrase or a problem or a need, to be able to bring you up in conversation. That's like the secret sauce of being able to get exponentially more referrals. So I love that about trigger words.
Another one-to-one exercise is visiting their job or job site being so valuable. Why do you guys think that is?
Okay, a little plug for BNI Advantage podcast number 8, Power Groups. Went over this really heavily. And this is so important for one-to-ones also, is by going to someone's actual business to do a one-to-one, you see it. And that will help you give them referrals because now you see the front desk, you see the flow of the business, you meet people that are working there, you take like a little tour. The amount of knowledge that you will get that will create the ease of trigger words is just a fountain. Anytime you can schedule a one-to-one, go to someone's business, bring them to your business and do the same thing.
Well, Clay, you guys don't really have a corporate center. You're working out of your homes and stuff like that, correct? So that might be a little tough for you.
I'm in one of my corporate offices right now, right at the home
Don't
office.
let it fool you. They're total
Yeah.
business there.
That's right.
And you run into, especially in the way that the economy works now, so many different businesses and even strong and very established businesses that maybe don't have a brick and mortar. So I think picking a place, whether it is that other person's office, assuming that the other person you're meeting with does have a physical place, or going back to building the relationship, for me as a small business owner who does not have a brick and mortar location, I can pick a place that's meaningful to me where I regularly go and invite you to do a one-to-one there and tell you a little story about why I picked that place to meet. It doesn't have to be my office. You can still get part of the value, which to me, if you do have brick and mortar, one of the best, most valuable pieces of hosting a one-to-one there is folks can feel your energy. They can feel your culture. They can feel your sense of place when they come into your location in a way that is just, it can't be duplicated, truly. And I've seen this in I think, 2 different examples as well that I would like to offer here. One of which is if you've got a retail location, right? Like a restaurant. We've had a number of restaurants and caterers in BNI over the years. And what a great opportunity to have a one-to-one, bring folks in to your physical place, have some delicious food. Jim, kind of like you said before, they get to sample the goods and they have that shared experience with you at the restaurant, right? And it becomes that much easier then for future meetings they're having to bring people to your location, to feed you business and to be giving a testimonial, talking about your company at the same time. On the other end of the spectrum, a lot of folks have brick and mortar, but maybe it's a white collar office space, let's say, for example, and there's not food you can sit down out there in the restaurant, right? It's not that same kind of repeat opportunity, but when you just come to somebody's office and you sit across from them at the desk or you sit in the conference room, you get a chance to see what the decorations are like on the wall. You get a chance to maybe see what the mission statement is that's up there. You see some of the pictures, the family mementos and the things that matter to you. And it creates that connection, room for questions, getting to know them. And even if it's on the industrial side or the blue collar side, you have somebody come to your warehouse and walk around and it's just kind of like they get to smell the smells of the tools and the different things that are there and just kind of see your place in business. I think each one of those different examples, it brings its own level of value to bringing somebody into your space.
Well, I kind of have an advantage in that. So, I mean, I have a pretty cool place to meet in. So I got nice chairs. It's somewhat impressive. You got all the cool lighting and lighting that changes colors, and it's very easy for me. So, anytime I'm able to have somebody here, I certainly take advantage of it because it kind of puts them in the mode, gets them talking about it. And plus, it's hopefully a cool experience for them. They talk about it to other people. So, if you can't refer what you don't understand, you can't fully understand what you've never seen. How should every one-to-one end, you guys think?
All right, let me see if you guys know this little phrase. 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. What sitcom did that come from?
Hogan's Heroes. The Brady Bunch.
No.
Family Guy.
Are you serious?
No, it's the Gilligan's Island.
Yes. Okay. All right. Do you think that they would get on that boat again after that happened? Actually, they never leave the island. So, but if they had that opportunity to go on another 3-hour tour, you think they would do it?
I would probably make sure it's at least
Think
an
I would not.
8-hour tour. Yeah.
My point is start on time and end on time. You got to be able to schedule and end it on time. It could be the best one-on-one and goes 3 hours. And what happens is you're like, holy cow, that was 3 hours. The next time you go to set up a one-to-one, and whether it's really conscious or subconscious, you're like, it took half the day. I don't have half a day. So you're discouraging yourself from having more one-to-ones simply because you didn't really set a timer. And both parties should know, hey, this one-to-one's going to go 30 minutes. Schedule out, an hour so that way, if it is going really good, you could always go a bit longer. You're not rushed because that's important too. You don't want to sit there and be looking at your watch the whole time. I know we've been talking about timers, but is it different when you're constantly going, how much time is it? I got to get going. You should end on time. And if there's more to talk, schedule another one-to-one.
What do you think, Clay?
Yeah, when it comes to how one-to-ones should end, it really didn't meet the expectations. And Ryan just touched on that, I think, in terms of timing. At the end, you're going back through that checklist, right? How much of that were we able to accomplish? Wrapping up, thanks for taking the time to be here today, Jim, Ryan. I want to make sure that this was a good use of time. What's one thing I can do when we leave here? Based on all this, what can I do to add value for you? If you can just confirm that, and then now you've got your action item to walk away from, however you frame it up, that's how a one-to-one should end, with a clear understanding of like, yes, this was a good use of to add value.
So essentially action items, introductions, follow-up, next steps. If there are no action items, you've had coffee. If there are action items, you've had a business meeting. Ryan, if listeners only remember one thing from today's podcast, what should it be?
Don't sit there and make it all about you and hold them there as this is our opportunity for me to sell you. If you come across that way, you're killing it.
There you go. The members who get the most referrals walk into a one-to-one wondering how to give referrals. Otherwise, most people just kind of walk into them wondering how to get them, which, as we all know, givers gain. That's not the BNI way.
Amen to that. Yeah. So my takeaway, what's the one thing from this? Keep in mind that in BNI, your chapter meeting and giving your presentations there, that's about awareness. One-to-ones, that's about connection. So make sure that you're using this time to really connect with, get to know your fellow member, and get clear on what you can do to help them. That's how you create the best connection.